It's also important to understand the effect that pH has on soils, and particularly on nutrient uptake in soil. So what can happen here is we can have good soil texture, we can have good cation exchange capacity, we can have nutrients available in the soil for our trees. However, if the pH is off, then there are nutrients that won't be available to the trees. Even if they're in the soil, the tree cannot take them up if the pH is not at an appropriate level. So what we see in this chart are our macronutrients and micronutrients, so the goodies, the cations that our trees need, and the thickness of the bar indicates at which pH the trees can actually pick them up from the soil. So if we look at molybdenum, for example, molybdenum would be limiting at a lower pH where we see a thinner bar, and it would be, adequate in this 5.5 to 6.5 range, and then high, really available to trees beyond that. So we can, kind of go through all of these nutrients at our specific pH. So if we look at a pH of 8.5, for example, at this pH, molybdenum will be available to trees. Copper and zinc will be limited because we have a smaller bar here. Boron is, kind of middle of the line. Manganese is middle of the line as well. Iron is tough to uptake for trees at 8.5 pH. Magnesium, calcium, sulfur, potassium are all good. Those are all available, indicated by the thickness of the bar here. Phosphorus is in that kind of medium range, but it's there. And this one's interesting, same with boron, because then it spikes. So it limits a little bit at a pH range of between 8 to 8.5, and then it goes high again. And then again at 8.5, nitrogen would be pretty available to the trees. So this is kind of the Goldilocks principle, where we want to keep our pH in a mid-range. If we look kind of down the middle of the bar or middle of the chart, where all of the bars are thicker, we see somewhere in the 6 to 7 range is pretty good for all of our nutrients. That's where nothing is limiting. They're certainly not all as good as they can be, but they're in that medium to high range. And so if we send our soil test or a soil sample away for analysis and we get the pH back, this can tell us if our soil will deliver nutrients to trees. And if not, then we can add supplements to buffer or to change the pH a little bit. And we'll talk about that on the next slide.